In the heart of Italy, where 7 gentle hills rise from the banks of the Tiber River, there once stood a city that would grow to rule the world. Rome, eternal city, mistress of nations, mother of law and civilization, whose story spans over 1,000 years of human triumph, struggle, and ultimate transformation. Here, where shepherds once tended their flocks on quiet hillsides dotted with oak trees, where farmers plowed fields of golden wheat beneath the warm Italian sun, the greatest empire in human history began as a collection of simple villages, their reed-thatched huts clustered around sacred groves and natural springs. Long before marble temples gleamed in the Mediterranean sun, before legions marched across 3 continents, before the word Caesar became synonymous with power itself, this land beside the flowing Tiber was home to peaceful tribes who worshipped household gods and honored their ancestors with simple rituals. The story we are about to follow spans nearly 12 centuries, from the mythical founding of Rome in 753 BCE to the fall of Constantinople in 1453 CE. It is the story of farmers who became soldiers, of soldiers who became citizens, of citizens who became the masters of the known world. It is a tale of 7 hills that became a city, of a city that became an empire, of an empire that became the foundation of Western civilization itself. From the she-wolf who nursed abandoned twins to the last emperor who watched his capital fall, this is the complete story of Rome. Close your eyes and drift back through time, to when the world was younger and the Mediterranean was not yet a Roman lake. Feel the warm Italian breeze that has blown across these hills for millennia, carrying with it the scent of olive groves and the distant sound of sheep bells echoing through valleys where history was about to be born. Listen, can you hear the gentle lapping of the Tiber against its banks, where fishermen cast their nets in waters that would one day reflect the marble columns of temples dedicated to gods both old and new? The soft murmur of evening prayers from hilltop shrines, where sacred fires have burned since time immemorial. Our journey begins in the realm of myth and legend, where history and storytelling intertwine like ivy around ancient oak trees. For the Romans themselves began their story not with historical fact, but with tales of gods and heroes, of destiny written in the stars and prophecies fulfilled by divine will. According to the legends that Roman children learned at their mothers' knees, the story begins far from Italy, in the burning ruins of Troy, where Prince Aeneas gathered the survivors of his fallen city and set sail across the wine-dark sea in search of a new homeland promised by the gods. Aeneas, son of the goddess Venus and the mortal Anchises, carried with him the sacred fires of Troy and the blessing of Jupiter himself. His journey across the Mediterranean, filled with storms and wonders, gods and monsters, was immortalized by the poet Virgil in the Aeneid, Rome's greatest epic poem. After years of wandering, Aeneas and his followers reached the shores of Latium, where the Tiber meets the sea. Here, the Trojan hero married Lavinia, daughter of the local king, and founded the city of Lavinium, establishing the bloodline from which the founders of Rome would eventually spring. Generations passed in peace and prosperity, with Trojan and Latin blood mingling to create a new people. The descendants of Aeneas ruled the city of Alba Longa, built on a hill overlooking the Alban Lake, where they maintained the sacred fires brought from Troy and honored the gods who had guided their ancestors to this promised land. But destiny had greater plans for this royal line. In Alba Longa, a princess named Rhea Silvia caught the eye of Mars, god of war. From their divine union came twin sons, Romulus and Remus, whose birth would set in motion events that would change the course of world history. The twins' great uncle, Amulius, had usurped the throne of Alba Longa and feared that these royal children might one day challenge his rule. In an act of cruelty that the gods would not forgive, he ordered the infants to be cast into the Tiber River, expecting the waters to carry them to their deaths. But the river gods had other plans. Instead of drowning, the basket carrying the twins came to rest gently on the muddy banks near the Palatine Hill, where a she-wolf, sacred to Mars, found the crying infants and nursed them as if they were her own cubs. The image of the she-wolf suckling Romulus and Remus became one of Rome's most sacred symbols, representing the divine protection that watched over the city's founders. Later, a shepherd named Faustulus discovered the boys and raised them as his own, teaching them the skills they would need to fulfill their destiny. The twins grew strong and brave under the shepherd's care, becoming leaders among the young men who tended flocks on the 7 hills. They organized bands of warriors who protected travelers from bandits and rescued the oppressed from tyrants, displaying the courage and sense of justice that would characterize Rome throughout its history. When they learned of their true parentage, Romulus and Remus overthrew their great uncle Amulius and restored their grandfather Numitor to the throne of Alba Longa. But the twins' destiny lay elsewhere. They had been chosen by the gods to found a new city that would surpass all others in power and glory. The brothers chose to build their city on the 7 hills where they had been saved as infants, but they quarreled over which hill should be the center of the new settlement. Romulus favored the Palatine Hill, while Remus preferred the Aventine. To settle the dispute, they agreed to watch for omens from the gods. The augury seemed to favor Remus, who saw 6 vultures flying over the Aventine Hill. But then Romulus saw 12 vultures over the Palatine, and the priests declared this to be the more favorable sign. On April 21, 753 BCE, according to Roman tradition, Romulus began marking out the boundaries of his new city with a sacred plow. The furrow that Romulus plowed became the sacred boundary of Rome, the Pomerium, which no armed foreigner could cross without permission. When Remus mocked this ritual by jumping over the furrow, Romulus killed his brother in a rage, declaring, "So perish anyone who dares to cross the walls of my Rome." Thus Rome was born in blood and divine favor, established by a son of Mars who had been nursed by wolves and blessed by the highest gods. Romulus became Rome's first king, ruling for 37 years and establishing many of the institutions that would define Roman civilization for centuries to come. The early Romans lived simply on their 7 hills, their city little more than a collection of thatched roof huts surrounded by earthen walls. They were farmers and shepherds, warriors and craftsmen, people who valued hard work, loyalty to family, and devotion to the gods who had blessed their ancestors. King Romulus faced an immediate problem. His new city was populated almost entirely by men refugees, outcasts, and adventurers who had been drawn to the promise of a fresh start. To ensure Rome's future, the Romans needed wives, but neighboring tribes were reluctant to give their daughters to this rough new settlement. The solution came through cunning and force. Romulus announced a great festival in honor of Neptune, inviting the neighboring Sabines and other tribes to attend. During the celebrations, at a prearranged signal, the Roman men seized the unmarried women and carried them off to become their wives. This event, known as the Rape of the Sabines, led to war between the Romans and their neighbors. But when the armies met for battle, the Sabine women, now mothers of Roman children, threw themselves between the fighting forces, pleading for peace between their fathers and husbands. Moved by their wives' pleas, the Romans and Sabines agreed to unite as one people, with Romulus and the Sabine king Titus Tatius ruling jointly. This merger doubled Rome's population and established the precedent for incorporating conquered peoples into Roman society rather than simply ruling over them as subjects. Under Romulus's rule, Rome grew from a village to a true city, with proper streets, public buildings, and defensive walls. The king established the Senate, a council of elders chosen from the leading families, and divided the people into patricians, nobles, and plebeians, commoners, social classes that would shape Roman society for centuries. According to legend, Romulus did not die, but was taken up to heaven during a sudden thunderstorm while reviewing his troops. The Romans deified him as Quirinus, god of the Roman people, and he joined Mars and Jupiter in the sacred triad that protected the city he had founded. After Romulus came 6 more kings, each contributing something unique to Rome's development. Numa Pompilius, the peaceful second king, established Rome's religious calendar and built the first temples. Tullus Hostilius, the warrior king, conquered Alba Longa and brought its people to Rome. Ancus Marcius extended Roman territory to the sea and built the first bridge across the Tiber. Tarquinius Priscus, an Etruscan immigrant, brought sophisticated building techniques and established the first sewers. Servius Tullius built the Great Wall around all 7 hills and reformed the army. The last king, Tarquinius Superbus, was a tyrant whose arrogance and cruelty finally provoked the Romans to revolution. When his son assaulted the virtuous noblewoman Lucretia, leading to her suicide, the outraged Romans drove out the royal family and vowed never again to be ruled by kings. In 509 BCE, the Roman Republic was born, founded on the principle that power should be shared rather than concentrated in the hands of one man. 2 consuls, elected annually, would serve as chief executives, while the Senate would provide continuity and wisdom, and popular assemblies would represent the will of the people. The early republic was a time of constant struggle, both external and internal. Rome fought for survival against hostile neighbors, while patricians and plebeians battled over political rights and economic justice. Yet from these conflicts came the strength and flexibility that would eventually make Rome master of the world. The Romans proved to be gifted warriors, but their true genius lay in their ability to organize, to govern, and to absorb other peoples into their growing confederation. Unlike other ancient empires that ruled through fear and tribute, Rome offered citizenship and alliance to those who proved their loyalty. As evening falls over the 7 hills, we can imagine the peaceful sounds of early Republican Rome. The lowing of cattle being driven home from pasture, the voices of children gathering around their mothers for the evening meal, the distant chanting from temples where priests tended the sacred fires. The gentle splash of fountains in the forum, where citizens gathered to discuss the affairs of their growing city-state. The soft murmur of prayers from household shrines, where families honored their ancestors and the gods who watched over their daily lives. These peaceful domestic sounds were the foundation of Roman strength. The stable families, the pious households, the citizen farmers who could take up arms to defend their city, and then return to their plows when the fighting was done. The Roman army of this early period was not yet the professional force it would later become, but a citizen militia where every man served according to his wealth and social status. The poorest served as light infantry, the middle classes as heavy infantry, and the wealthy as cavalry. Roman soldiers were expected to provide their own equipment, creating a system where military service was both a privilege and a burden of citizenship. This citizen-soldier ideal meant that those who fought for Rome also had a stake in its government and prosperity. In the early 5th century BCE, Rome faced its greatest crisis yet when the Gauls, fierce Celtic warriors from the north, swept down into Italy and captured the city itself. Only the Capitol Hill held out, defended by a small garrison that included the sacred geese whose honking warned of a night attack. The Gallic sack of Rome in 390 BCE was a traumatic experience that left deep scars on the Roman psyche. Never again would they allow their city to be defenseless. The walls were rebuilt higher and stronger, the army was reorganized and expanded, and Rome began its inexorable expansion across Italy. The Romans learned from their defeats as well as their victories, adapting their tactics and strategies to meet new challenges. When they encountered the sophisticated phalanx formation of Greek armies, They developed the more flexible manipular system that could fight effectively on rough terrain. By 270 BCE, Rome controlled most of the Italian peninsula through a complex web of alliances, colonies, and directly governed territories. Roman roads began to crisscross the landscape, connecting distant cities with the capital and facilitating the movement of troops, goods, and ideas. The Romans built not just for conquest but for permanence. Their roads were engineered to last for centuries. Their aqueducts brought clean water across many miles. Their bridges spanned rivers that had never been crossed before. Infrastructure became a tool of both military and cultural conquest. The Roman approach to governance was pragmatic rather than ideological. They studied what worked in other societies and adapted it to their own needs. From the Etruscans, they learned engineering and urban planning. From the Greeks, they adopted philosophy and art. From subject peoples, they recruited soldiers and administrators. This flexibility extended to religion as well. Rome's pantheon grew constantly as new gods were identified with Roman deities or adopted outright. Jupiter, king of the gods, presided over a divine bureaucracy as complex and efficient as the earthly government of Rome itself. The Roman family remained the foundation of society throughout the Republic. The paterfamilias held absolute authority over his household, including the power of life and death over his children. Yet this authority was balanced by duties of protection and provision that bound families together across generations. Roman women, while lacking formal political rights, exercised considerable influence through their roles as mothers, wives, and guardians of family honor. The stories of virtuous Roman women like Lucretia, Cornelia, and Cloelia became moral exemplars that inspired both men and women for centuries. Education in Rome was practical rather than theoretical, focusing on rhetoric, law, and history rather than abstract philosophy. Young Romans learned to speak persuasively, to understand legal principles, and to draw lessons from the experiences of their ancestors. The Forum Romanum became the heart of this expanding world, where senators debated policy, lawyers argued cases, and merchants conducted business that stretched from Britain to India. The sounds of the Forum, voices raised in oratory, the scratch of styluses on wax tablets, the clink of coins changing hands, were the sounds of a civilization in motion. As we drift through these centuries of republican expansion, we can imagine the peaceful evening sounds in Roman homes across Italy. Oil lamps flickering in bedrooms where children listened to stories of their ancestors' heroic deeds, the soft voices of mothers singing lullabies that had been passed down through generations. The gentle crackle of fires on household altars where families made their evening offerings to the Lares and Penates, the guardian spirits of home and hearth. These domestic rituals, repeated in thousands of homes each night, created the spiritual foundation that sustained Rome through centuries of war and conquest. By the 3rd century BCE, Rome's expansion brought it into conflict with Carthage, the great maritime empire that controlled much of the western Mediterranean. The Punic Wars that followed would test Rome's resolve and ultimately establish it as the dominant power in the ancient world. Carthage was everything Rome was not, a merchant empire built on sea power and trade rather than agriculture and conquest. Founded by Phoenician colonists from Tyre, it had grown wealthy through commerce, controlling sea routes and establishing trading posts from Spain to Sicily. The First Punic War began in 264 BCE over control of Sicily, an island that both powers saw as crucial to their security and prosperity. Rome, traditionally a land power, was forced to build a navy to challenge Carthaginian control of the seas, a task they accomplished with characteristic determination and engineering skill. The Romans studied captured Carthaginian ships, copied their designs, and trained their crews using practice vessels built on dry land. Within a few years, Rome had created a fleet capable of challenging Carthage for control of the Mediterranean, demonstrating the adaptability that was key to Roman success. The war lasted 23 years, fought primarily on and around Sicily. Roman persistence eventually wore down Carthaginian resistance, and in 241 BCE, Carthage agreed to evacuate Sicily and pay a massive indemnity. Sicily became Rome's first overseas province, governed directly rather than through alliance. The peace between the wars was uneasy, with both powers preparing for the next conflict. Carthage focused on expanding its empire in Spain, while Rome consolidated its control over northern Italy and built up its military strength. The stage was set for an even greater struggle. In 218 BCE, the Second Punic War began when Hannibal Barca, greatest of Carthaginian generals, led an army including war elephants across the Alps into Italy. His crossing of the mountains in winter was one of the most audacious military achievements in ancient history. Hannibal's invasion brought the war to Rome's doorstep and tested the loyalty of Rome's Italian allies. At Cannae in 216 BCE, his tactical genius destroyed a massive Roman army, killing over 50,000 Romans in a single day and bringing Carthaginian forces within sight of Rome itself. But the Romans refused to surrender, even in their darkest hour. They adopted a strategy of attrition, avoiding major battles while harassing Hannibal's forces and cutting his supply lines. Meanwhile, Roman armies attacked Carthaginian territories in Spain and Africa, forcing Hannibal to fight a war on multiple fronts. The Roman general Scipio Africanus finally defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE, ending Carthaginian power forever. Hannibal's elephants, which had terrorized Roman armies for over a decade, were turned against their own masters, and Carthage was forced to surrender unconditionally. The victory over Carthage made Rome the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean, but it also marked the beginning of Rome's transformation from a regional Italian power to a world empire. New territories brought new responsibilities, new wealth, and new challenges that would strain the republican system to its breaking point. Roman armies now marched east into Greece and Asia Minor, where they encountered the sophisticated Hellenistic kingdoms that had emerged from Alexander's empire. These campaigns brought Romans into contact with Greek philosophy, art, and culture, beginning a process of cultural fusion that would transform Roman civilization. The Romans were practical people who admired Greek achievements while remaining skeptical of Greek character. "Captive Greece took captive her savage conqueror," wrote the poet Horace, recognizing how Greek culture had civilized Roman manners while Roman power had conquered Greek cities. Greek slaves, many of them highly educated, became tutors in Roman households, teaching the children of the elite Greek language, literature, philosophy, and mathematics. This education created a new generation of Romans who were as comfortable with Homer as with the laws of the 12 Tables. Roman religion gradually absorbed Greek mythology, identifying Roman gods with their Greek counterparts and adopting Greek stories about divine adventures and interventions in human affairs. Jupiter became Zeus, Mars became Ares, Venus became Aphrodite, creating a richer and more complex mythological tradition. The wealth flowing into Rome from conquered territories transformed the city from a collection of modest dwellings into a magnificent capital worthy of a world empire. Marble temples replaced structures of wood and brick, while private homes grew larger and more luxurious. Greek artists and architects came to Rome, bringing with them the classical styles that would define Roman monumental architecture for centuries. The Forum was expanded and beautified. New temples were built on the Capitoline Hill, and public works projects employed thousands of workers. But this new wealth also created new problems. Traditional Roman values emphasized simplicity, duty, and agricultural virtue. But these ideals seemed increasingly obsolete in a world of overseas empires and enormous riches. The gap between rich and poor widened, creating social tensions that would eventually tear the Republic apart. The Roman army, once composed of citizen farmers who returned to their fields after each campaign, was increasingly made up of professional soldiers who depended on their commanders for land and retirement benefits. This created dangerous loyalties that could be turned against the state itself. As evening falls over this transformed Rome, we can imagine the sounds of the great city at the height of its republican glory. The distant roar of crowds in the Circus Maximus, where 250,000 spectators watched chariot races, the splash of fountains in elegant private gardens where senators discussed the affairs of empire, the gentle murmur of slaves preparing elaborate dinners in the kitchens of palatial homes, the soft music drifting from banquet halls where Roman nobles reclined on couches and discussed Greek philosophy between courses of exotic delicacies from every corner of the Mediterranean. Yet beneath these sounds of luxury and sophistication, the traditional rhythms of Roman life continued. In modest apartments and simple houses, ordinary Romans still gathered around their family altars for evening prayers, still told their children stories of ancestral virtue, still maintained the customs that had made Rome great. The Republic's final century was marked by civil wars as ambitious generals used their armies to seize power in Rome itself. Marius and Sulla, Pompey and Caesar, Antony and Octavian. These names became synonymous with the violent death throes of republican government. Gaius Julius Caesar emerged as the most successful of these strongmen, conquering Gaul and making himself dictator of Rome. His assassination on the Ides of March, 44 BCE, was meant to restore the Republic, but instead plunged Rome into another round of civil wars that would destroy the old system forever. From the chaos that followed Caesar's death came Augustus, his adopted son and heir, who defeated all rivals and established the Roman Empire. Taking the title Augustus, meaning revered one, he created a new form of government that preserved republican forms while concentrating real power in his own hands. The Augustan settlement, as historians call it, brought peace to the Roman world after a century of civil war. The Pax Romana Roman peace would last for over 200 years, creating the conditions for unprecedented prosperity, cultural achievement, and territorial expansion. Augustus ruled for 45 years, from 27 BCE to 14 CE, establishing the institutions and traditions that would govern the Roman Empire for centuries. He rebuilt Rome in marble, expanded the empire to its natural frontiers, and patronized poets like Virgil and Ovid, who created literary masterpieces that still inspire readers today. The Augustan poets sang of Rome's destiny to rule the world and bring peace to all nations. Virgil's Aeneid traced Rome's origins back to Troy and forward to eternal glory, while Ovid's Metamorphoses wove together myths from around the Mediterranean into a unified narrative of transformation and renewal. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome became the first truly global city, home to over 1 million people from every corner of the empire. Greek philosophers taught alongside Egyptian priests, Germanic warriors served in the Praetorian Guard, and senators came from Spain, Gaul, and Africa. The Roman Empire at its height stretched from Scotland to Sudan, from Portugal to Persia. Roman law governed diverse peoples, Roman roads connected distant provinces, Roman aqueducts brought water to cities that had never known such abundance, Roman theaters and amphitheaters provided entertainment to millions. This was civilization on a scale never before achieved, held together not just by military force but by the benefits of Roman rule, security, prosperity, and the opportunity for advancement regardless of birth. Talented provincials could rise to become generals, governors, even emperors. The Emperor Trajan, who ruled from 98 to 117 CE, expanded the empire to its greatest territorial extent, conquering Dacia, modern Romania, and campaigning in Mesopotamia. His column in Rome, decorated with spiraling reliefs depicting his victories, still stands as a monument to Roman military achievement. Trajan's successor, Hadrian, was a different kind of emperor, a scholar, architect, and traveler who spent half his reign visiting the provinces. He built the Great Wall across northern Britain that bears his name, and rebuilt the Pantheon in Rome as a temple to all the gods of the empire. The Pantheon, with its perfect dome open to the sky, symbolized the Roman achievement, a structure of unprecedented engineering sophistication that embraced divine forces from throughout the known world. It stands today as it stood 18 centuries ago, a monument to Roman architectural genius. Under the five good emperors, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Empire reached its golden age. Peace, prosperity, and good government allowed arts and letters to flourish, while trade networks connected the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who ruled from 161 to 180 CE, spent much of his reign fighting Germanic tribes along the Danube frontier. His Meditations, written in his tent during military campaigns, remain one of the greatest works of Stoic philosophy, emphasizing duty, reason, and acceptance of fate. The Stoic philosophy that Marcus Aurelius embodied had become the unofficial religion of the Roman elite, teaching that virtue was the only true good and that wise men should accept whatever fortune brought them. This philosophy helped sustain Roman administrators and soldiers through the challenges of governing a vast empire. Daily life in the Roman Empire was surprisingly modern in many ways. Cities had running water, public baths, theaters, restaurants, and apartment buildings several stories high. The wealthy lived in spacious houses with central courtyards, while ordinary people crowded into insulae, multi-story tenements. Roman engineering made urban life possible on an unprecedented scale. The Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, carried away waste from 1 million inhabitants. Aqueducts brought fresh water from mountain springs dozens of miles away. Public fountains provided free water to every neighborhood. The Roman passion for bathing created elaborate public bath complexes that served as social centers for entire communities. The baths of Caracalla in Rome could accommodate thousands of bathers at once, providing not just hot and cold pools but libraries, art galleries, exercise courts, and gardens. Roman cuisine reflected the empire's diversity, with spices from India, wine from Gaul, olive oil from Spain, and grain from Egypt gracing tables throughout the Mediterranean. Cookbook recipes from this period show sophisticated cooking techniques and an appreciation for flavors from around the known world. Entertainment was equally elaborate, from intimate dinner parties where guests reclined on couches and listened to poetry recitations, to spectacular gladiatorial games where exotic animals from Africa fought trained warriors before crowds of tens of thousands. The Colosseum, completed in 80 CE, was the largest amphitheater ever built, capable of holding 50,000 spectators who could be seated and evacuated through an ingenious system of corridors and stairways. The arena floor could be flooded for naval battles or filled with elaborate stage sets for mythological dramas. Yet the most characteristic Roman entertainment was the chariot race, held in the Circus Maximus, which could seat 250,000 spectators. The rivalry between the blue and green racing factions became so intense that it sometimes led to riots that threatened public order. As we drift through the golden age of Roman civilization, we can imagine the peaceful evening sounds in a prosperous provincial city, the gentle splash of fountains in public squares, the distant music from a private banquet, the soft conversations of families gathering for their evening meal. The murmur of prayers from household shrines where Roman families honored their ancestors and the traditional gods, the laughter of children playing in the courtyards of comfortable homes, the night watchman's call echoing through streets lit by oil lamps and moonlight. These peaceful domestic sounds were replicated in hundreds of cities across the empire, from York in Britain to Antioch in Syria, from Tingis in Morocco to Tomis on the Black Sea. Roman civilization had created a unified world where similar sounds, similar rhythms of life, could be found wherever the eagles of the legions had planted Roman standards. The Roman road system, over 250,000 miles of highways connecting every province to the capital, carried more than just armies and official messengers. Merchants, scholars, pilgrims, and adventurers traveled these roads, spreading ideas, technologies, and cultural influences throughout the empire. "All roads lead to Rome" was more than just a saying. It reflected the reality that the capital remained the heart of a vast circulatory system that pumped people, goods, and information throughout the Mediterranean world and beyond. The Miliarium Aureum, the golden milestone in the Forum, marked the theoretical center of the known world. Roman law, developed over centuries of practical experience, provided a framework for governing diverse peoples with different traditions and customs. The principle that law should be written, public, and apply equally to all citizens, regardless of their origin, was revolutionary for its time. The Corpus Juris Civilis, compiled under the Emperor Justinian in the 6th century CE, preserved Roman legal principles that continue to influence modern legal systems. Concepts like the presumption of innocence, the right to legal representation, and the distinction between civil and criminal law all have Roman origins. Roman engineering achievements were equally influential and long-lasting. Roman roads, built to last for centuries, provided the foundation for European transportation networks that are still in use today. Roman architectural innovations like the arch, the dome, and concrete construction revolutionized building techniques. The Romans were the first to use concrete on a massive scale, creating structures like the Pantheon's dome that could not have been built with stone alone. Roman hydraulic cement could even set underwater, allowing them to build harbors, bridges, and aqueducts that lasted for centuries. But perhaps Rome's greatest achievement was cultural rather than technological. The idea of citizenship, that people from different ethnic backgrounds, speaking different languages, worshiping different gods, could all be Romans, created a model for multicultural society that was unprecedented in the ancient world. The Emperor Caracalla's grant of citizenship to all free inhabitants of the empire in 212 CE represented the culmination of this process. From Britain to Egypt, from the Rhine to the Euphrates, people could claim the proud title Civis Romanus Sum. I am a Roman citizen. This expansion of citizenship was both Rome's greatest strength and, ultimately, a source of challenge. As the empire grew larger and more diverse, it became increasingly difficult to maintain the unity of purpose and shared values that had made Rome great. Regional differences began to assert themselves more strongly. The 3rd century CE brought a series of crises that tested the empire's resilience. Germanic tribes pressed against the northern frontiers, Persian armies invaded from the east, and a succession of military emperors fought civil wars that devastated the economy and weakened central authority. The crisis of the 3rd century saw 50 emperors in 50 years, most of them murdered by their own soldiers or killed in battle against usurpers. Hyperinflation destroyed the currency, trade networks collapsed, and cities throughout the empire shrank as people fled to the countryside for safety. Yet Rome survived this crisis, demonstrating the resilience of the institutions and traditions built up over centuries. The Emperor Diocletian, 284–5 CE, reformed the government, the army, and the economy, creating a new system that would sustain the empire for another 2 centuries. Diocletian's most important innovation was dividing the empire into eastern and western halves, each ruled by its own emperor. This division recognized the reality that the empire had become too large and complex for a single ruler to govern effectively from Rome alone. The division also reflected cultural and economic differences that had developed between the Greek-speaking East and the Latin-speaking West. The eastern provinces were wealthier, more urbanized, and more commercially active, while the West was more agricultural and dependent on military defense. Constantine the Great, 306–337 CE, reunited the empire temporarily and made 2 decisions that would shape the future of European civilization. He legalized Christianity and founded a new capital at Constantinople, modern Istanbul, to serve as a new Rome in the East. The conversion of Constantine to Christianity marked a turning point not just for the Roman Empire but for world history. Christianity, which had begun as a small Jewish sect preaching love and redemption, became the official religion of the greatest empire in history. The early Christians had been persecuted by Roman authorities, who saw their refusal to worship the emperor as treason and their exclusive monotheism as a threat to social order. Yet the faith spread throughout the empire, appealing especially to the poor, women, and slaves who found hope in its message of salvation. Christian communities developed their own structures parallel to Roman government, with bishops governing dioceses that often corresponded to Roman administrative districts. This ecclesiastical organization would prove crucial to maintaining order as Roman civil authority weakened in later centuries. The Edict of Milan in 313 CE granted religious tolerance throughout the empire, ending centuries of persecution and allowing Christianity to emerge from the shadows. Christian churches began to appear in every city, often built on the sites of pagan temples or incorporating classical architectural elements. Constantine's new capital of Constantinople was designed as a Christian Rome, adorned with churches rather than temples dedicated to the old gods. The Hagia Sophia, built by his successor Justinian, would become the greatest church in Christendom, its massive dome seeming to float above the earth like a vision of heaven itself. The Eastern Empire, which we now call the Byzantine Empire, would survive for another 1,000 years after the fall of Rome, preserving Roman law, Greek culture, and Christian faith through the medieval period. Constantinople became the largest and wealthiest city in Europe, a bridge between East and West. Meanwhile, the Western Empire faced increasing pressure from Germanic tribes who were themselves being pushed westward by the Huns and other nomadic peoples from the Asian steppes. These barbarian migrations were not simple invasions, but complex movements of entire peoples seeking new homes. The Visigoths sacked Rome in 410 CE, followed by the Vandals in 455 CE. Yet these were not mindless acts of destruction, but attempts by Germanic kings to claim the legitimacy and wealth of Roman authority. Many barbarian leaders sought to become Roman generals or governors rather than destroyers of Rome. The last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustus, was deposed in 476 CE by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer, who sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople and declared himself king of Italy. This date is traditionally considered the end of the Western Roman Empire, though the transition was gradual and complex. In many ways, the Germanic kingdoms that emerged from the empire's collapse were more Roman than barbarian. They maintained Roman law for their Roman subjects, used Latin for official documents, and sought recognition from the emperor in Constantinople. The Roman Empire had not died but transformed. The Ostrogothic kingdom in Italy, the Visigothic kingdom in Spain, the Frankish kingdom in Gaul, all these successor states preserved elements of Roman civilization while adapting to new conditions. Roman senators continued to serve Gothic kings. Roman engineers maintained aqueducts for Germanic warriors. The Catholic Church became the primary institution linking these new kingdoms to the Roman past. Bishops, trained in classical rhetoric and Roman law, served as advisors to barbarian kings and preservers of ancient learning. Monasteries became centers of literacy and scholarship. In the East, the Byzantine Empire continued to call itself Roman, and its emperors maintained the title Caesar, Kaiser in German, Tsar in Russian. The Code of Justinian preserved Roman law, while Byzantine armies reconquered parts of Italy, Spain, and North Africa in the 6th century. The reign of Justinian, 527–565 CE, represented the last attempt to restore the full extent of the Roman Empire. His generals Belisarius and Narses won spectacular victories against Vandals, Ostrogoths, and Persians, briefly reuniting the Mediterranean under Roman rule. But these conquests proved impossible to maintain. The empire lacked the resources to garrison such vast territories, and new threats emerged from unexpected directions. The rise of Islam in the 7th century would permanently transform the Mediterranean world that Rome had united. As we drift through these final centuries of Roman rule, we can imagine the peaceful sounds of evening in a provincial city where Roman and barbarian, Christian and pagan, lived side by side. The bells of Christian churches calling the faithful to evening prayers, mixing with the older sounds of Roman fountains and Germanic drinking songs. The gentle murmur of Latin prayers in cathedral churches where mosaics depicted Christ as a Roman emperor, surrounded by saints dressed as Roman senators. The soft conversations in monastery scriptorium where monks copied classical texts alongside Christian scriptures, preserving both traditions for future generations. These peaceful sounds reflected the reality of Rome's transformation rather than its destruction. The empire did not vanish overnight, but evolved into new forms that preserved its essential achievements while adapting to changing circumstances. Rome's true legacy lay not in political boundaries, but in ideas and institutions. The concept of universal law, the ideal of citizenship transcending ethnic boundaries, the vision of a unified world governed by reason and justice. These Roman innovations continued to inspire leaders and thinkers long after the last legion had been withdrawn from distant frontiers. Charlemagne's coronation as Roman emperor in 800 CE demonstrated the continuing appeal of Roman legitimacy. The Holy Roman Empire, though neither holy nor Roman nor much of an empire, preserved the idea that Europe should be united under a single authority inspired by Roman precedent. The Renaissance rediscovered classical Roman literature, art, and architecture, inspiring a cultural rebirth that transformed European civilization. Roman legal principles were revived and adapted to modern conditions, while Roman architectural styles influenced buildings from the U.S. Capitol to the British Museum. Even today, Roman influence permeates Western civilization in ways both obvious and subtle. Our legal systems derive from Roman law. Our languages, if based in Latin, preserve Roman vocabulary. Our political institutions reflect Roman innovations in republican government and imperial administration. The idea of representative government, the concept of checks and balances, the principle of the rule of law, all these foundational elements of modern democracy can be traced back to Roman political thought and practice, refined through centuries of experience in governing diverse peoples. Roman engineering principles continue to influence modern construction. The interstate highway system follows Roman engineering principles, using similar techniques for surveying straight routes and building bridges that can last for centuries. Modern concrete is essentially an improved version of Roman hydraulic cement. But perhaps Rome's most important legacy is cultural rather than technical. The Roman model of multicultural citizenship, imperfect though it was in practice, provided a template for modern democratic societies where people of different backgrounds can unite around shared civic values. The Roman Empire was history's most successful experiment in governing diverse peoples under a single system of law and administration. While it ultimately failed to maintain political unity, it succeeded in creating a common civilization that continues to influence the modern world. As evening deepens over the eternal city, we can imagine the sounds of modern Rome layered over those of ancient times. The distant hum of traffic along roads that follow ancient Roman routes, the splash of fountains fed by aqueducts built by Roman engineers 2,000 years ago. The bells of Christian churches built on the foundations of Roman temples, calling the faithful to prayers in Latin that would have been understood by Caesar and Cicero. The voices of tourists from around the world, speaking dozens of languages as they marvel at monuments that have stood for 2 millennia. In the Forum Romanum, where senators once debated the fate of nations, cats sleep peacefully among broken columns that once supported temples to Jupiter and Venus. The Pantheon still opens its dome to the sky, welcoming visitors just as it welcomed worshippers 18 centuries ago. The Colosseum, though partly ruined, still inspires awe in all who see it, a testament to Roman engineering skill and the complex society that created such monuments. Its arches and corridors echo with the memories of gladiators and emperors, slaves and citizens, all part of the great human drama that was Rome. These physical remains are just the most visible legacy of a civilization that transformed the world through law, language, engineering, and the revolutionary idea that diverse peoples could be united in a single political community based on shared citizenship rather than ethnic identity. The Roman story is ultimately a human story of farmers who became conquerors, of conquerors who became civilizers, of a city that grew to encompass the world, and then gradually transformed into something new while preserving what was best from the past. It is a story of triumph and tragedy, of achievement and hubris, of the eternal human struggle to create order out of chaos, meaning out of suffering, and lasting institutions out of temporary circumstances. In this, Rome speaks to every generation that attempts to build something greater than itself. The Roman poet Virgil wrote that Jupiter had granted the Romans empire without end, imperium sine fine. Though the political empire eventually fell, the cultural empire that Rome created proved more durable than any military conquest, spreading Roman ideas and values to every corner of the world. As we rest in the peaceful embrace of Roman history, we can reflect on the remarkable achievement of a people who began as simple farmers on 7 hills beside the Tiber, and ended as the creators of a world civilization that continues to influence human society after 2 millennia. The gentle sound of the Tiber flowing through Rome, as it has for thousands of years, carries with it the echoes of all who have lived along its banks. Romulus marking out his city's boundaries, Caesar crossing the Rubicon, Augustus bringing peace to the world, Constantine embracing Christianity. The river that witnessed Rome's birth continues to flow past the monuments of its greatest achievements, connecting the ancient past with the present moment, reminding us that some human accomplishments truly do transcend the boundaries of time and space. In the quiet of the Roman evening, we can hear the whispered voices of history itself. The prayers of Vestal virgins tending sacred flames, the orations of Cicero defending the Republic, the commands of legionary centurions marching toward distant frontiers, the hymns of early Christians gathering in secret. These voices blend into a chorus that speaks of human ambition and achievement, of the eternal desire to build something lasting, to create institutions that will outlive their creators, to reach toward ideals that may never be fully realized but inspire each generation to attempt something great. The Roman eagle, symbol of military might and imperial authority, has given way to other symbols in other times. But the Roman spirit, the determination to create order, to extend citizenship, to build for eternity continues to inspire all who seek to improve the human condition. Sleep peacefully now, surrounded by the gentle spirits of Roman history, knowing that you are part of the same human story that began on 7 hills beside the Tiber and continues wherever people gather to create laws, build cities, and dream of a better world for their children. The eternal city sleeps beneath stars that shone on Caesar and Augustus, Marcus Aurelius and Constantine, and countless ordinary Romans whose names are forgotten, but whose lives contributed to the great edifice of Roman civilization that shelters us still. In your dreams tonight, walk the marble-paved streets of ancient Rome, hear the splash of fountains in the Forum, feel the warm Italian sun on the steps of the Pantheon, and know that you are connected across the centuries to all who have marveled at human achievement and dared to hope for something greater. The Roman story ends, but the greater story of human civilization continues, flowing like the Tiber itself from the ancient past toward the uncertain future, carrying with it the accumulated wisdom and dreams of all who have sought to build something worthy of human aspiration. Rest now in the peaceful embrace of the eternal city, where the past and present merge in the gentle Roman twilight, and let your dreams carry you back to a time when the world was young and full of possibility, when a city on 7 hills dared to imagine it could rule the world and succeeded beyond its founders' wildest dreams. The Tiber flows on through the darkness, carrying the dreams of ancient Rome toward the sea, toward the dawn of new possibilities, in the endless cycle of human hope and achievement that began with Romulus and Remus, and continues wherever people dare to dream of greatness. In the gentle darkness of the Roman night, surrounded by monuments that have stood for 2,000 years, sleep deeply and dream of empire and republic, of citizens and Caesars, of the remarkable human adventure that began beside the flowing Tiber and echoes still in every corner of the civilized world. The eternal city rests beneath the blessing of stars that have watched over it since Romulus first marked out its sacred boundaries, and in that ancient peace, find rest, find dreams, and know that you are part of the great continuing story of human civilization that Rome began and the world continues. Sleep peacefully, citizen of the modern world, heir to Roman law and Roman roads, Roman architecture and Roman ideals, knowing that the best of Rome lives on in every effort to create justice, to build lasting institutions, and to extend the blessings of civilization to all humanity. The gentle murmur of the Tiber carries the final echoes of our Roman story into the realm of dreams, where the achievements of the past inspire the possibilities of the future, and where the eternal city lives on in the hearts of all who believe in the power of human civilization to create meaning and beauty in this world. In the peaceful silence of the Roman evening, where emperors and slaves, senators and citizens, all found their final rest, let the gentle waters of time carry you safely through the night, past the monuments of eternity, toward the dawn of new possibilities that each day brings to those who dare to hope and build and dream. The story of Rome draws to its close, but the greater story flows on like the river itself, carrying the accumulated wisdom of ages toward the limitless future, in the endless journey of human aspiration that began on 7 hills and continues toward the very stars themselves. Rest now in perfect peace, knowing that you have traveled through the complete story of Rome, from its mythical founding to its transformation into the foundation of Western civilization, and that you carry within you the eternal Roman spirit that seeks always to build something greater than what came before. The Tiber whispers its ancient lullaby as it flows past the sleeping monuments of the eternal city, carrying the dreams of Rome gently into the night, where they join the endless river of human memory and hope that connects all generations in the great adventure of civilization. In the gentle embrace of Roman history, where the past becomes present and dreams become reality. Sleep peacefully and know that you are part of the continuing story of human achievement, the endless quest to create something beautiful and lasting in this temporary world. The eternal city sleeps beneath the dome of stars, its ancient story complete but its spirit living on in every human heart that seeks justice, builds for the future, and believes in the possibility of creating a civilization worthy of humanity's highest aspirations. Sleep deeply now, surrounded by the peaceful spirits of all who contributed to Rome's greatness, knowing that their legacy flows on through you and all who seek to build bridges across differences, to create lasting institutions, and to extend the blessings of civilization to future generations. The gentle sound of water flowing through ancient Roman channels carries you softly into sleep, into dreams of marble temples and paved roads, of citizens and emperors, of the remarkable human achievement that began beside the Tiber and continues wherever people dare to dream of building something greater than themselves. In the timeless peace of the Roman twilight, where all the struggles and triumphs of 1,000 years rest in gentle memory, let your dreams carry you back to the eternal city in its glory, and forward to all the wonders yet to be achieved by those who follow in Rome's footsteps. The Roman story becomes one with the eternal flow of human history, as the gentle currents of time carry the accumulated dreams of the eternal city toward the infinite future, where the best of Rome lives on in every effort to create a more perfect world. Rest peacefully in the knowledge that you have journeyed through one of history's greatest civilizations, that you have walked with emperors and citizens, senators and slaves, and that you carry within you the Roman legacy of law, citizenship, and the eternal human dream of justice and peace. The Tiber flows on through the darkness toward the sea, carrying with it the final whispers of our Roman journey, the accumulated wisdom of centuries, and the eternal promise that human civilization, like the river itself, continues to flow toward ever greater achievements and understanding. In the gentle silence of the eternal city, where the monuments of Rome stand eternal watch over the dreams of humanity, sleep now and always in the peaceful embrace of history, knowing that you are part of the great story that began with Rome and continues with each new generation. The ancient voices of Rome fade into the whisper of eternity, but their message remains clear, that humans are capable of greatness when they work together, that civilization is humanity's greatest achievement, and that the dream of a just and peaceful world is worth pursuing across all the centuries. Sleep deeply in the embrace of Roman peace, the Pax Romana of the heart, where all conflicts find resolution, all dreams find fulfillment, and all who have ever sought to build something beautiful and lasting find their eternal rest in the gentle flow of time itself. The eternal city rests in perfect peace beneath the stars that witnessed its rise and transformation, its story complete but its spirit living on in every human effort to create justice, beauty, and meaning in the continuing adventure of civilization on Earth. In your final dreams of ancient Rome, hear the gentle lapping of the Tiber against its ancient banks, see the moonlight gleaming on marble columns, feel the peace that comes from knowing that some human achievements truly do transcend time and space, living on forever in the realm of eternal memory. The Roman legacy flows on like the river itself, eternal and ever-changing, carrying the dreams of the past toward the possibilities of the future, in the endless journey of human hope and achievement that began on 7 hills and continues toward the infinite horizon of human possibility. Rest now in the timeless peace of the eternal city, where all who have ever dreamed of building something greater than themselves find their home at last, in the gentle embrace of Roman history and the eternal promise of human civilization reaching always toward the light. The story of Rome draws to its peaceful conclusion, but the greater story of human achievement flows on like the eternal Tiber, carrying the accumulated wisdom of ages toward the dawn of new possibilities, in the endless cycle of civilization that Rome began and humanity continues. Sleep peacefully, citizen of the world, heir to Roman greatness, knowing that the best of Rome lives on in you and all who seek to create a more perfect union of humanity, bound together not by conquest but by shared ideals of justice, law, and the common good. The gentle waters of the Tiber carry the final echoes of our Roman journey into the realm of dreams, where the eternal city lives on in all its glory, where the achievements of the past inspire the possibilities of the future, and where all who seek greatness find their inspiration. In the peaceful silence of the Roman night, where emperors and citizens, senators and slaves, all find their final equality in the democracy of memory, rest deeply and dream of the continuing human adventure that Rome began and the world carries forward. The eternal city sleeps beneath the blessing of time itself, its monuments weathered but unbroken, its spirit undimmed by the passage of centuries, its legacy living on in every corner of the civilized world where Roman ideals of law and citizenship continue to inspire humanity. Sleep now in perfect peace, surrounded by the accumulated blessings of Roman civilization, knowing that you are part of the great chain of human achievement that stretches from the 7 hills of ancient Rome to the infinite possibilities of the future. The Tiber whispers its eternal blessing as it flows through the heart of the sleeping city. May you rest well, dream beautifully, and wake to continue the great work of civilization that Rome began, building bridges across differences, creating lasting institutions, and extending the blessings of peace to all humanity. In the gentle darkness where all of Rome's story converges into eternal peace, let the ancient waters carry you softly into the deepest sleep, surrounded by the spirits of all who built the eternal city, and inspired by their example to dream of building something equally beautiful and lasting. The Roman story becomes one with the eternal flow of divine providence itself, as the gentle currents of time carry all human achievement toward the infinite mystery that calls to every generation, inspiring them to reach beyond themselves towards something greater than they ever imagined possible. Rest peacefully now, knowing that you have completed the great journey through Roman history, that you have seen civilization rise from 7 hills to encompass the world, and that you carry within you the eternal Roman flame that burns on in every human heart that seeks truth, justice, and beauty. The eternal city rests in the embrace of eternity itself, its ancient streets echoing with the footsteps of all who have ever walked in hope, its monuments standing as eternal testimony to the power of human dreams to create lasting beauty in this temporary world. Sleep deeply in the peace of Rome eternal, where all stories find their happy ending, all dreams find their fulfillment, and all who have ever sought to serve something greater than themselves find their reward in the gentle embrace of infinite love and endless peace. The Tiber flows on through the darkness toward the eternal sea, carrying with it the final whispers of our Roman journey, the accumulated blessings of 1,000 years of human achievement, and the promise that the best of Rome lives on forever in the hearts of all who dare to dream. In the timeless silence of the eternal city, where past and future merge in the perfect present of divine love, rest now and always in the knowledge that you are part of the great river of human civilization that began with Rome and flows on toward infinity. The ancient voices of Rome join the eternal chorus of human aspiration, singing of achievements that transcend time, of dreams that become reality, of the endless human quest for meaning and beauty that finds its fulfillment in the gentle embrace of divine grace. Sleep peacefully, beloved traveler through Roman history, knowing that you have seen the rise and transformation of the greatest civilization in human history, and that you carry its light within you always, illuminating the path toward an even greater future. 100. The story of the eternal city draws to its gentle close, but the greater story of human love and achievement flows on like the river itself, carrying the dreams of Rome toward the infinite horizon, where all earthly stories find their completion in the perfect peace of eternity. 130 in the final silence where all of Rome's glory rests in perfect peace. Let the ancient waters of time carry you gently into the deepest rest, surrounded by the blessings of all who built the eternal city, and inspired by their example to dream of serving something infinitely greater than ourselves. 101. The Tiber whispers its final lullaby as it carries the legacy of Rome into the realm of eternal memory, where the achievements of the past become the inspiration for an infinite future, and where all who have ever sought greatness find their home in the gentle embrace of divine love. 101. Rest now in the timeless peace of the eternal city, where the Roman story becomes one with the greater story of divine love itself, and where all human dreams and aspirations find their perfect fulfillment in the infinite mystery that surrounds and sustains all creation. 102. Sleep deeply, and let your dreams carry you gently through the night, past all the monuments of Roman greatness, toward the dawn of infinite possibility, where the eternal city lives on forever in the realm of perfect peace and endless love. 102. The ancient story of Rome reaches its peaceful conclusion, but the greater story flows on like the eternal river, carrying the accumulated blessings of human civilization toward the infinite sea of divine grace, where all stories find their completion and all dreams find their fulfillment. 103. In the gentle embrace of Roman eternity, where time itself rests in perfect peace, sleep now and forever, knowing that you are part of the great river of love that began in the heart of the eternal city and flows on toward the infinite horizon of divine possibility. 103. The Tiber flows on through the darkness toward the eternal dawn, carrying with it the final echoes of our Roman journey and the promise that the best of human civilization lives on forever in the realm of infinite love and perfect peace. 104. Rest peacefully in the eternal city, where all who have ever dreamed of building something beautiful and lasting find their ultimate home, and where the Roman legacy of law, citizenship, and human dignity continues to inspire all who seek to serve the greater good of humanity. 104. The gentle waters of eternity carry the story of Rome into the realm of perfect rest, where the achievements of the past inspire the infinite possibilities of the future, and where all human dreams find their completion in the gentle embrace of divine love. 105. Sleep now in the peace of Rome eternal, knowing that you have journeyed through the complete story of human civilization's greatest experiment, and that you carry within you the eternal flame of Roman greatness that burns on in every heart that seeks truth, justice, and beauty. 105. In the final silence of the eternal city, where all of Rome's glory rests in perfect peace, let the ancient blessings of human achievement carry you gently into the deepest sleep, surrounded by love and inspired by the eternal promise of human greatness. 106. The Roman story becomes one with eternity itself, as the gentle currents of divine love carry all human achievement toward the infinite mystery that calls to every generation, inspiring them to build something beautiful and lasting in this temporary world. 106. Rest peacefully now, citizen of eternity, heir to Roman wisdom, knowing that the eternal city lives on forever in the realm of divine love, where all dreams are fulfilled, and all who have ever sought to serve something greater than themselves find their perfect rest. 107. The Tiber whispers its eternal blessing as it flows toward the infinite sea. Rest well, beloved soul, for you have seen the glory of Rome and carry its light within you always, illuminating the eternal path toward truth, beauty, and infinite love. 107. In the gentle darkness of the eternal city, where time and eternity merge in perfect harmony. Sleep deeply and dream of the infinite possibilities that await all who carry the Roman legacy of human dignity, justice, and the eternal quest for a more perfect world. 108. The ancient voices of Rome fade into the eternal silence of divine love, but their message echoes on, that human beings are capable of transcendent greatness, that civilization is a sacred trust, and that every generation has the opportunity to build something worthy of eternity. 108. Sleep peacefully in the embrace of Roman eternity, where the eternal city rests in perfect peace, and where all who have ever dreamed of serving something greater than themselves find their ultimate fulfillment in the infinite love that surrounds and sustains all creation. 109. The story of the eternal city draws to its gentle close, but the greater story of divine love flows on like the river itself, carrying the accumulated blessings of Roman civilization toward the infinite horizon, where all earthly achievements find their completion in perfect peace. 109. Rest now in the timeless peace of Rome eternal, where the legacy of human greatness joins the eternal song of divine love, and where all who seek truth, justice, and beauty find their home in the gentle embrace of infinite grace and endless possibility. 110. The Tiber flows on through eternity, carrying the dreams of the eternal city toward the infinite sea of divine love, where the Roman story finds its completion, and where all human aspirations are fulfilled in the perfect peace that surpasses all understanding. 110. In the final silence where all of Rome's achievements rest in eternal peace, sleep deeply and dream of infinite love, knowing that you are part of the great river of human civilization that began in the eternal city and flows on forever toward the infinite mystery of divine grace. 111. The eternal city sleeps beneath the blessing of infinite love, its story complete but its spirit living on in every human heart that seeks to build something beautiful and lasting, something worthy of the eternal heritage that Rome bequeathed to all humanity. 111. Sleep peacefully now, surrounded by the gentle spirits of Roman greatness, knowing that the eternal city lives on forever in the realm of divine love, where all dreams are fulfilled and all who have ever sought greatness find their perfect rest in infinite peace. 112. The ancient waters of the Tiber carry the final whispers of our Roman journey into the realm of eternal silence, where the achievements of the past become the foundation for infinite future possibilities, all held in the gentle embrace of divine love. 112. In the timeless peace of the eternal city, where all of Rome's glory rests in perfect harmony with divine will, let your dreams carry you gently through the night toward the dawn of infinite possibility, where love conquers all and peace reigns eternal. 113. The Roman legacy flows on like the river of eternity itself, carrying the accumulated wisdom of ages toward the infinite sea of divine love, where all human achievements find their completion and all seekers find their home in perfect peace. 113. Rest now in the eternal embrace of Roman peace, where the city on 7 hills has become one with the city of God, and where all who have ever dreamed of building something lasting find their ultimate fulfillment in the infinite love that sustains all creation. 114. The story of Rome reaches its gentle conclusion in the realm of eternal peace, but the greater story of divine love flows on forever, carrying the blessings of human civilization toward the infinite horizon where all dreams become reality and all seekers find their home. 114. Sleep deeply in the peace of the eternal city, knowing that you have completed the great journey through Roman history and carry within you the eternal flame of human greatness that burns on forever in the heart of divine love. 115. 00, the Tiber whispers its final blessing as it merges with the eternal sea of divine grace. Rest well, beloved soul, for you have seen the glory of human achievement, and know that the best of Rome lives on forever in the infinite realm of love and peace. 115. 30 asterisk in the gentle silence of eternity, where the eternal city rests in perfect peace. Sleep now, and always in the knowledge that you are part of the great river of divine love that flows from the beginning of time toward the infinite future of perfect peace. 116. 00, the ancient story of Rome becomes one with the eternal story of divine love, as all human achievements flow toward their completion in the infinite mystery that calls every generation to reach beyond itself toward something infinitely greater and more beautiful. 116. 30 Rest peacefully now, citizen of eternity, heir to Roman greatness, knowing that the eternal city lives on forever in the realm of infinite love, where all who have ever sought to serve something greater than themselves find their perfect and eternal rest. 117. 00, the gentle waters of eternity carry the final echoes of our Roman journey toward the infinite sea of divine love, where all stories find their completion, all dreams find their fulfillment, and all hearts find their eternal home in perfect peace. 117. 30 asterisk in the timeless embrace of the eternal city, where Roman greatness merges with divine love. Sleep deeply and dream of infinite possibilities, knowing that you carry within you the eternal flame that illuminates the path toward truth, beauty, and everlasting peace. 118. 00, the Roman story draws to its peaceful close, but the greater story of divine love flows on like the eternal river, carrying the accumulated blessings of human civilization toward the infinite horizon, where all earthly achievements find their completion in perfect love. 118. 30 Sleep now in the eternal peace of Rome, where the city of man has become one with the city of God, and where all who have ever dreamed of building something beautiful and lasting find their ultimate home in the gentle embrace of infinite love and endless peace. 119. 00, the Tiber flows on through eternity toward the infinite sea, carrying with it the final blessings of our Roman journey and the promise that the best of human civilization lives on forever in the realm of divine love that embraces and sustains all creation. 119. 30 asterisk in the gentle darkness of the eternal city, where time and eternity merge in perfect harmony. Rest now and always in the knowledge that you are beloved, that you are part of the great story of human greatness, and that you find your home in infinite love. 120. 00, the eternal city rests beneath the blessing of infinite grace, its ancient story complete, but its spirit living on in every human heart that seeks truth, justice, and beauty, and in the eternal promise that love conquers all and peace reigns forever in the realm of divine perfection.